So, technology, I don't need to tell you, is ubiquitous. In this room alone, not including what you brought, there's over 100 electrified connected devices. Technology is in every part of our lives. It influences the way we work, the way we communicate, the way we embrace each other, and the way we reach across boundaries. We use it for so many things. We use it to expand the markets that we purchase from when we buy things online, maybe to distract ourselves by playing games, or maybe distract our kids, so maybe a little bit of help. We also doom scroll at night before we go to bed as well. Everybody's guilty of that. And sometimes we even delegate tasks like vacuuming. And we're not the only ones that use technology, right? Businesses are the biggest users of technology. Banks use it to trade faster, to engage their customers more. Pharma companies use it to test and deploy vaccines more quickly. And transportation companies use it to connect drivers and riders and maybe even deliver faster to your door. And why do they do it? For profit. That's why they use tech. They use tech to make more money so that this guy can sit there and laugh and be excited and bask in an array of his own greed and be able to live a healthy, happy life. But that's not the whole story. This didn't come free. It's profit motivation. In fact, we're killing our home, planet Earth. The amount of plastic we produced since 1950 has increased 23,000%. Nice return, right? And the majority of it ends in landfills. 10% of it ends up in the water. Some of it's even in your blood right now, if you've seen the recent studies. Despite all this tech progress, 60 million of the 800 plus million children in the world don't go to school. Why? Because of poverty. Poverty makes them have to work as a priority over school. Poverty means many of them live in conflict zones where it's not safe to go to school. And despite all this connectedness, we're more separated, or maybe we just feel more separated than we've ever been, right? And those who are at the forefront of these social movements feel that more than anybody else. There's so much work to do. So, there's no plan B, so what are we going to do about it? And just as the sign says, there's no planet B, so we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do about this challenge. And if you're like me, or maybe like Nina, or maybe like others who have talked about purpose today in the room, maybe you've been waking up or staying up late recently thinking about, is this even the right question? Do I have to make a choice between doing well or doing good? Is that the right question? Is that how you feel? Should we really have to be focused on this choice? Is that the world that we want to live in? Is that the legacy that we want to leave behind? Well, historically, there have been three parties that dealt with this challenge. Right? If we take a big step back, governments would provide the basic services, try to keep everybody safe. Nonprofits emerged and have grown tenfold over the last 20 years or so. They would sort of fill in the gaps, and everything else was left for neighbors, for people to help each other. But more recently, there's this new but old party that we talked about earlier who's coming on the scene, being driven by their socially and environmentally conscious consumers, employees, and investors, saying, hey, corporations, you better get in this game or you're going to die. So to bring this down to earth, we're going to go through a whole bunch of examples. So here we go. Take, for example, the National Forest Foundation that uses technology from AI maps that come from satellites to work on pinpoint accuracy about where trees should be planted to reforest our wildland. Same thing works with mangroves here in Puerto Rico. Or Team Gleason, it's based in New Orleans, that uses commercial-grade customer service technology to connect people and families living with ALS to the services and equipment that they need to live their best lives, all while using technology to raise more funds and be able to search for a cure. Or the people that are at the forefront of social movements, like the picture here, people fighting for the rights of girls and women, which we all need more of, I'm sure you agree. They're using commercial-grade marketing technology to teach people about their bodies, tell them where they can get support, and also show them where they can either show up online or in person to make sure their voices are heard. And elsewhere around the world, people are using educational technology to reach those millions of students we talked about earlier who would otherwise be out of reach. And that's made possible by the access to broadband technology. Still have a long way to go, but millions of additional students are being reached with localized training is based on what they need in that moment. And even companies like Inditex, anybody know the Zara brand of clothing, leverages technology to invest in the health, well-being, and mental health of their employees in their factory and retail locations so that they can live better lives and they can show up for their customers. Another great example that I love to talk about is in Israel, a place we're hearing a lot about at the moment. There's over 100,000 migrant workers a year, and there's an organization in Israel that's using commercial-grade customer service technology to protect the rights of immigrant workers at a time when they need it now more than ever, and hold their employers accountable. A little closer to home, there's an organization based in DC that is taking the information from the 60 million lawsuits filed per year in the United States and making that searchable and discoverable so that we can accelerate the judicial process and try to minimize the number of false incarcerations. And last but not least, disasters. I don't have to talk about that here. I wasn't here for it, but I've heard. And these organizations that are focused on international aid are using advanced technologies to try to put the aid in the right place at the right time when people need it most on their darkest days. So I hope you've seen a bunch of examples today of how it is possible for us to see that the access to technology is at the core of this revolution. And it must be human-centered technology. We no longer need to ask the question in an or format. We can do well and we can do great. And I invite you to join us on this journey.